Okay, that should be good. Okay, that. Excellent. And that, okay, beauty. All right. I am ready to go in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back, guys. Oh my gosh. Today, you guys, I have like a legend in the making today on the show. Today, I am joined by Joanne Fraser. Joanne did 26 and a half years with the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. She spent 1990 to 2003 in Alberta and then 2003 to 2015 in Ottawa. She retired from Ottawa. And during her time, Joanne went to battle. She went all the way to the Supreme Court in the Fraser versus Canada lawsuit regarding job sharing and pension buyback. That final decision was rendered in October of 2020. We are going to break that down, guys. We're going to talk about it because this girl went to battle for y'all and she won this decision. And I'm so excited to talk about this, as well as all of the other things that you do and you did throughout your career, because there's so many different things. We touched on little things before we started recording, but this career was incredible. And Joanne and I actually met because as a side gig, guys, you know, I teach fitness, I teach aquafit classes, and Joanne is retired and she comes to my classes. And so one day I was like, they called me the drill sergeant, and I was like, well, you guys, I used to be a prison guard, ha ha ha. And then she came up to me afterwards and she's like, oh, I used to be an RCMP. And I was like, instant best friends. Hello.
Yeah.
I convinced her to be on the podcast. So, Joanne, welcome to the show. How are you?
Oh, I'm great. Thanks for the invite. I was very happy to do this for you. It's fun.
I'm so excited about this show because we started talking a little bit and I was like, yeah, sweet RCMP. I love it. Like, I love getting, you know, like people on the show that have like lived all over the country, able to speak to different things. And then when you started telling me all the different things, I was like, oh my God, this show is going to be like, it's going to be so good. I've been so jazzed for this one. So without further ado, let's jump right in because we got a lot to cover in this show. But 26 and a half years, you did basically half of it in Alberta and half of it in Ottawa. Like, how did you get into it? What drew you to the RCMP and where did you come from?
So originally from Ontario, and ever since I was 5, there's a clipping in the local paper, Milton, Ontario, with my picture on it, looking up at a Halton Regional police officer in my classroom. And ever since then, I was like, I want to be a police officer. And I went through university, went to York University. I took sociology, graduated from there, and then I started applying at police forces. So I applied with Halton Region, Peel Region, Toronto, OPP. So all of the Ontario police forces and local police forces I applied to. And I was going through their system, you know, doing my applications and then, you know, go for my fitness test and going through all that stuff. And a friend of my parents said to me, did you apply to the RCMP? And I said, no, I'm not bilingual. Why would I apply to the RCMP? Because in Ontario, you never see the RCMP because you have all your local police and then the OPP. So he's like, Joanne, I'm an RCMP and I don't speak French. So the next day he showed up at my parents' door with an application and I said, oh, okay, thanks. He goes, no, I'm not leaving until you fill it out. I'm like, oh, okay, so this might take a while. So I filled it out. He took it back and the process started. And in between all the other ones and this one, the RCMP called me first. So that's what sent me off to the RCMP. And go ahead.
So why did you like, was it a requirement to be bilingual? I mean, obviously not because this other officer wasn't, but like, was that something that was like, it was considered an asset if you were bilingual?
Yeah, I mean, I guess so. I just assumed like being a national police force, you had to speak both languages, but I mean, they sent you to places where you didn't have to speak French, of course. I had no idea. But when I first did join on December 5th, 1988, I went right from Toronto to Montreal on a pilot project that the RCMP was doing for language training. So I went to school for 8 hours a day and I lived with a French family. So you were totally immersed in French. You did a French kind of quiz before to see if you had the capacity of learning a second language. Of course, I passed that. So I was almost 10 months in Montreal with the family, completed my B levels for French language training, ended up going into a French troop in Depot after that when I graduated. So all your instruction is in French, but you could do your exams and everything in English. If you wanted, if you felt better that way and understood it better, then you did it in English. And that's what I did. So everything instruction wise was in French, but you could do it in English. So Yeah, I went to depot and then graduated in May of 90, and my first posting was Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. So
That is just so crazy to me. Like the thought of like just being dumped into another language for 10 months in school 8 hours a day, like as an adult, because like my kids do French immersion. And
right.
so like I did it all the way, like, started in grade 7, did it up to university, like, had like working French, like enough that I could kind of like listen and speak, but not great. And like even just seeing my kids being able to pick it up like by grade 2, grade 3, they're fully fluent, like blah, 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 everything in
Yeah.
French. And now like my oldest is 16, she's full, like she can go off and speak French to everybody, and all of my kids can. And I try now at 46, I'm like trying to like Duolingo it. Like I should be able to do it. Is so hard. Like my brain is just like, it is not computing. Like it is not sinking in like it does when you're a kid. So I can't imagine how like that just
Yeah.
like
So
that.
at 23 years old, you're totally going back to school, you're learning French, and you're living with a French family. So the first lady that I stayed with, she was it was funny because she was a single lady. She was going to school, and at that point the RCMP paid their people $1,500 a month. So if you took in an RCMP French language student, you were getting $1,500 a month. So but she wanted to learn English, so it wasn't really working for me. So
Mhm.
I told the corporal, I said, look, this is what's happening. I don't know how this happened, but she's not really, doing her side of what she's supposed to be doing with the French talk, speaking and stuff. So they sent me to another family. The second family I went to spoke zero English, zero. We had a dictionary on the table, and that's what we like. We would both look at words in the dictionary to get through, watched French TV, and I mean, they were fantastic. But that's totally how I got immersed and was able to get my levels so quickly, right? Was
That is,
being total.
yeah, just dumped in it, like sink or
Yeah.
swim. It's
Yeah.
so funny because, like, again, we're talking like 1989. Like, there's no Google Translate. There's no, like, let me pull my phone out and you speak into my phone and then tell me what you're saying. Like, you're literally like flip, 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 flip,
Yeah.
flip, 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 flip in this dictionary trying to figure out. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then to go from Ontario, and so like had you traveled like throughout Canada before, or had you just kind of been like an Ontario girl? That was it.
Yeah, I had, I'd been to Ottawa in grade
Mhm.
7, and been to Quebec in grade 8 and stuff for school trips, but I'd never been, anywhere. I went to Nova Scotia with my aunt and uncle for a summer camping for a couple weeks and stuff, and that was it. So, to get into my car with another guy who just from Toronto, who I just met that morning, and both of us take off to Montreal. I don't know this guy, but the RCMP is like, oh, he doesn't have a ride. Can you give him a ride? I'm like, sure, no problem. I got a car, so jump in. So
Wow.
yeah, we get to Quebec and we had to be at Montreal headquarters at a certain time. But again, like there's no like GPS, right? Like this is the address. This is where you need to go. I've never driven in Quebec before. The highways in Quebec are crazy.
Mhm.
So yeah, I was way up on one end and I needed to be downtown somewhere, right? So we were a little bit late and of course got the old, you know, the what for, and you're in the RCMP now and you can't be late. And I'm like, well, I had no idea where we were and what we were doing. And so anyway, we finally got there and met our families and away we went. But yeah, that was our introduction to here you go.
Wow. And then to finish depot and be like, okay, and now you're going to move across the country and you're going to go to this place called Fort Saskatchewan, Alberta. See you later. Good luck with that. And so, how old were you when you were like finished?
I was 24 when I finished depot.
Okay.
But the funny thing is now driving from Montreal across the country to Saskatchewan, which I'd never been, right? So I have CAA or AMA or whatever. And I said to them, like, can you do me one of those triptych, map things? Because I need to
Yes.
get from Milton, Ontario to Regina, Saskatchewan. And there was three of us, kind of like in a cars going across. So I was kind of like the leader because I had the triptych and no one else knew what was going on. So yeah, we went through the States and in Chicago and all these places, and yeah, finally ended up at in Regina, which was a 4-day hike to get across. So yeah, but yeah, then came out and went to Fort Saskatchewan. And when you get your postings, you get your postings in depot, and it's just over halfway. So you're about 4 months, you find out where you're going to be going 4 or 5 months. And so I got my ticket and it said Fort Saskatchewan. Well, for me, anything with a fort in front of us was like, holy fuck, I'm going up north and it's going to be fucking cold. Like,
Yeah.
Jesus Christ, like, where the hell am I going? Right.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend at the time at Depot, who is now my husband, he's like, no, 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 Fort Saskatchewan is good. Like, it's near Edmonton. It's a big city. It's really good. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay. I'll take that then. So one of our other troop mates, his wife was in the military and she was at Nemeo, which is just
Okay.
not far from Fort Saskatchewan.
Yeah.
But he got a posting of Fort McMurray. So he was like, oh, can you switch with me? And I'm like, no, I know that Fort McMurray is north. I'm not going north. I'm not going in the cold. No, no, no. But they wouldn't let him switch anyway. But yeah, so I was like the fourth or fifth female member ever to get to Fort Saskatchewan at that time. And yeah, there was some, issues at first with some of the male members, but I was one of the first females to get a male forage cap because they were getting rid of the female hats that we looked like bus drivers. But I did graduate with one of those in a skirt, had heels, pumps. We graduated. We had to learn how to march with a purse. Yeah, we had all that stuff. We had high leather boots where we had to wear if we were, dress boots for, marching if we were in our skirts. And yeah, I graduated all that. We had a fur helmet, those big fur helmets that we had. That's what we graduated with. And Oxford shoes and yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So it wasn't until 3 years later that they everyone switched to the full male uniform, right? With the red serge and high browns and breeches and stuff. So
that's crazy. So like literally 93 is when oh my God.
Yeah.
Absurd. Like women were still in skirts graduating in 1992. Oh my God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Like even just, it's funny because like I always say like people that are kind of like in this, like, I'd say between like their 40s and their 60s right now. Like if you think of all the things that have changed in our like kind of lifetime, not even touching technology, but like if we're talking like, is it's only 40 years ago, it's only 30 years ago, the 90s, right? Like, and so it's crazy to me to think that like that recent, this was what was going on and this is what was happening. That's insane.
It's only been 51 years since females were in the RCMP. That's not that long ago either, right?
Yes. So like insane. And so when you went to Fort Saskatchewan, so like first posting, like out of depot, fresh, just like a fresh little baby pushed from the nest.
Yeah.
What was that like for you? Because not only are you going to a place you've never fucking been before, to a province you don't know anybody, to a city you've never even fucking seen before, but now you're also doing this job that you've never done before, that you're just kind of finished training. Like, what was that like?
Yeah, it was pretty stressful, but I have to say, like everybody, when I first got there, they were just so nice, so patient, so like, helping me find an apartment and, helping me with like my stuff hadn't arrived. So, somebody let me a TV, somebody let me, a bunch of stuff. Like everybody was just super, super nice with, helping me feel comfortable and, part of the team. My watch, of course, was all guys. We had one female per watch kind of thing. We had 3 watches at the time, and we called it, the token female on each watch. And, and you learned that you got most of the sexual assault files, and, that was, just what they did and stuff. But I have to say my very, very first file was theft of flowers. If you can believe it. So there was a lady going around town in Fort Saskatchewan that was stealing people's gnomes and flowers and stuff out of their flower gardens. And so that was my first file.
You're like, low risk. I like it. Low risk. We're not jumping into a straight fucking murder investigation. No. We're gonna start low. We're gonna ease our way in. That's so funny.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. And so how long were you in Fort Saskatchewan for?
So I was there until after I had my second child. So I had my son in 93, took 6 months mat leave, went back to work, had my daughter in 96, and then I took 6 months mat leave, and then I took 5 years leave without pay because at that time, like we were talking, trying to find a night home because my husband was a member as well to look after two kids. They wanted you to pick them up by 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. Like, when were you supposed to sleep? You didn't even know sometimes if you were at a scene whether you'd be home at 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning, right? You just can't get up and go, oh, sorry, got to go pick up my kids. Like, no, it doesn't work that way. So yeah, so we decided that with everything going on and stuff, I would just take a leave of absence, leave without pay, it was called, and actually worked out well because I stepped in and worked with the city of Fort Saskatchewan and dispatched at the office. So the guys liked it because I knew what was going on. I knew how to take the calls. When our court person went away, I would take over the court stuff because I knew, what was expected from files and that kind of stuff. So when my husband was home and it wasn't a conflict of interest, then I would just say yes or no, whether I could work or not. So that worked out well until 2000 when a sergeant asked me if I would come off my leave without pay and job share. And I thoroughly looked at it because it was very, very new to the RCMP. It just came out in policy a year before, but I think it was in 98, maybe 99 it came out. And there wasn't a lot of people that were doing it, and you had to ask for permission and you had to have everything, dotted and signed by the commanding officers and everything. So even if members wanted to do it, it had to be agreed upon. So I looked into it and they were like, oh yeah, it's just like leave without pay. You can buy your pension back and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, oh, okay, fine. So I met with the sergeant. We met, yeah, you're going to go on highway patrol. And that was one of my faux pas was I didn't like giving out tickets at all. So for me to go on highway patrol, I was like, oh, I really got to give out tickets. So that was like kind of on my yearly assessments all the time, Joanne, you got to give out more tickets and stuff like that. Right. But anyway, so I said, oh, okay, I'll do this highway patrol thing. So I started out for the Redwater Highway Patrol unit. And then they switched me over to Morinville. So I was on the Morinville Highway Patrol unit. And to be honest, Nikki, at the end, that was probably the best part that I loved highway patrol because you could get in your car, take everything with you and go. I mean, our area was large, very large. So sometimes on a night shift, if you were, like I said, an hour away from the nearest breathalyzer, sometimes you just gave somebody a 30-day suspension because you knew you weren't going to make it by the time the tow truck came and everything in that hour to bring them to the breathalyzer machine. So stuff like that. But yeah, so like in all those years I did rural municipal, I did crime prevention where I was school liaison, I was a DARE instructor. I looked after what do you call that? What do we call those block parents out in Lamont? Yeah. Back then, remember block parents?
I totally do. Yeah. Neighborhood watch.
Kids could run to a house with a sign in the window.
Yep.
Like these people weren't very checked very good, right? Like back then, like I'm sure there was pedophiles back then that were block
probably
parents, like
probably
the hell. Anyway, but that was fun. I was always involved in the community. I coached softball. I was a big softball player. The kids loved it when I would show up to a coach in my uniform because they're like, Coach, you're just intimidating the other team. This is awesome. So yeah, that was fun. And yeah, I ended up in highway patrol, had a great time on Morinville Highway Patrol, and then got asked if I would transfer to Ottawa to go on the Prime Minister's detail.
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Blue Line Fitness Testing is a premier law enforcement fitness testing and training center based in Edmonton. Specializing in helping individuals prepare for the physical demands of a career in law enforcement, we offer comprehensive fitness evaluations, specialized training programs, and classes tailored to meet the unique needs of our clients. Our facility hosts a range of classes and are committed to fostering a supportive and empowering environment where clients can achieve their fitness goals. Our team includes experienced trainers who bring specialized expertise in law enforcement, self-defense, personal training, and rehabilitation. We engage through our community through challenges, events, and our podcast, and we are dedicated to helping individuals succeed in their fitness journeys and career aspirations in law enforcement. Are you looking to get started with your career? Come see Blue Line Fitness Testing, and we'll get you there. Holy crap. So, okay. So I want to take us back.
Yep.
So what did the job share look like? Like it was like you're working halftime and somebody else is working the other halftime, like a full rotation shift, but you take half and another person would take half, or like how did that job share look?
So the job share was 20 hours per week. So she
Okay.
did 20 hours and I did 20 hours. And we worked it around my husband's schedule. So someone was always home, because that's what I said to the sergeant. Look, I'm on leave without pay because we're having issues with babysitting.
Mhm.
And he's like, no problem. We can work your schedule around Chris's schedule and go from there, kind of thing. So that's what we did. She worked 20 hours and I worked 20 hours. Both of us were married to members and both of us just had babies. So it worked out great for the both.
See, and well, and that brings up the other part that I wanted to touch on, because in the last, I'd say probably 5 or 6 guests that I've had, and throughout all of the seasons of the podcast, the reoccurring theme is women who sacrifice their careers to be moms. And like, be it they choose to do it, be it is forced upon them. But we as women, it's a unique thing that does not happen on the male side of things as a first responder. At no point in time, and this is not a slight to your husband or any other husbands out there that are also members, but at no point, I guarantee, did it ever cross their mind to take a leave, go job share, go part-time, fucking adjust their schedule to adjust for, childcare. At no fucking point does that ever even cross. Maybe now, but I guarantee it is always the women who say, this is not what's best for my family. I'm going to make, like Jane from Saskatchewan Marshal Service. I just had her on a little while ago. Brenda last week, 2 weeks ago, just was on the show. Grand Prairie Police, same thing. She left Edmonton Police to go be a community peace officer because there was no childcare. Like people literally leaving their careers, taking leaves of absences without pay to raise their children. It's only ever the women who are doing these things. Men, it doesn't cross their mind to do it. And so it's like fucking way to go, women, because like nobody else is going to do it. Ain't nobody else going to do it. It's only us. But like, I just think to myself, if women weren't, I guess, faced with that decision and it wasn't solely on their shoulders, imagine how many women would be in completely different spaces, in completely different positions, in bigger leadership positions, like if they didn't have to take a 5-year break, a 2-year break, a 3-year, right? If they were able to go full-time all the time instead of having a job share, imagine what would have happened. Imagine the opportunities that would have come our way and these women's way if that didn't have to happen.
So I can tell you that the list of people that job shared or worked part-time, in the end, when I pulled all this stuff together and was able to get a list of all the federal, like RCMP employees and civilian employees that had worked part-time or job shared, there were less than 10 men on the list.
Yes, exactly. Yep,
So
exactly.
You're absolutely right.
It just be like, again, right? So women, like, and if you're a listener and you're a woman and you don't have kids yet and you're thinking about this and you're like, how the fuck am I going to juggle it? What am I going to do? Like, you do have to think about these things. And if you're in it right now and you're feeling guilty and you're feeling like, oh, I'm not able to give everything I can to my job, but I'm also not able to give everything to my family. We've all been there. We've all been there, girl. We feel you. We see you. Do what you need to do for yourself and for your family. And don't worry about the work. It'll be there. It'll be there. But we understand that the sacrifices and the decisions that you have to make, and we understand how hard it is. And you're doing a great job. Mamas out there, you're doing a great job.
But I have to say that now, and it wasn't when we probably were in that we did it, but the duty to accommodate, right?
Mm-hmm.
So now female members can go to their boss and say, look, like, I can't work night shift or anymore, or doctors will give them a note to say, this is a duty to accommodate. This person cannot function because they have a baby that's up, blah, 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 blah.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's in their court for them right now, where we didn't have that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So
absolutely.
That's a positive for sure.
Yeah. I think the other side of that though, too, is when you do take that duty to accommodate, you get the, oh, really? Yeah. Really? You can't work night shift because you have a baby? Yeah. And it's like, I'm sorry, motherfucker, when you go home, who's done your laundry? Who's washed your uniform? Who has your fucking supper ready for you? Who has a clean house for you? Mm-hmm. Yeah. the fucking woman that's at home, not you working, us that are working and
And I don't
doing
know
all this.
if you had this to deal with, but every time I moved or you got moved somewhere, whether it was to Ottawa or got promoted or got whatever, as a female, you always had to prove yourself.
Mhm.
Always had to prove yourself. So, if you got moved and you're a corporal now and you're in management or whatever, well, now you have to prove yourself. Why did you get that job? What are you going to do
Mhm.
for me? Like, how are you going to prove yourself? And my husband, he would say, no, not really. I said, yeah, all the time. I said, as a woman, you have to prove that you belong there and that you can do the work. Any man can get transferred anywhere and they're like, hey, Bob, come on over, let's go. Right. But
Mhm.
no, as a woman, no. How come you're here? Why did you get picked for this job? Show us why it's you, right?
Yep.
Like it's a total double standard.
Totally, especially if you got the job over one of their buddies.
Exactly.
100%. You
Yeah.
are instantly detested, instantly hated, instantly mistrusted. Yep, absolutely. Okay, so you were in Alberta 1990 to 2003, and then in 2003, leaving the job sharing, they were like, here's this thing we want you to do in Ottawa. So what was that, and how did that kind of transpire?
Yeah, so we got to Ottawa and I went to the compensation section in Ottawa and I said, hey, I'm ready to, because I could buy back my mat leave. And I knew right away what my mat leave buyback was when I came back. And I said, now how do I do the paperwork and get started to buy back my job sharing? And the lady in Ottawa looked at me like I was stupid. And she's like, you can't buy that back. I said, "Well, what do you mean? I could have been off 5 years total on a leave without pay and be able to buy all of that back. Yes, at double the rate, at your rate and the government's rate, but do nothing for the RCMP at all and buy 5 years back." Now, I job shared where I was part of the RCMP, kept up with everything as it was going along, and now you're telling me I can't buy it back? I said, that makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, yeah, no, it wasn't in the policy and they didn't think about that when they brought that through. So no, you can't. And I'm like, okay, this is dumb. Like I gotta talk to somebody. So I went right to the commissioner at the time. I think wasn't Zaccardelli. Might have been Zaccardelli. Yeah. Anyway, so I went right up to his office and made an appointment and talked to his EA or whatever at the time and said, hey, like this doesn't make sense. He's like, yeah, you're right. It doesn't. And so because I was in Ottawa, I'd learned of some of the other ladies that had started to, you know, make, I guess, some decisions on whether they should sue the RCMP, how they should do this. So they all filed grievances. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like, is this just a big grievance or do I need to file a grievance? And they're like, no,
Mm-hmm.
no, it's a global grievance for these two. And it was a lady in Nova Scotia that started it. And she started sending me things and she's like, hey, Joanne, because you're in Ottawa, like you're going to be like our spokesperson and go and, try and do different things because out in the detachments and in the provinces, we don't know what's going on. You're at headquarters where they make all of these policies and stuff. So,
Mm-hmm.
Can you like take this on? I'm like, sure, let's do this. So because they had started the grievance, they said, no, there's already a grievance in about this. Like you don't need to put one in. We went through 6 commissioners. They hired 2 pension actuaries to look at it. Both of them said, yeah, just make it part of your leave without pay policy and they can buy it back just like they can on leave without pay. Well, then they said, no, you can't do that. It has to be Treasury Board because Treasury Board is the one that pays for the RCMP. So long story short, it took 10 years before the grievance got a decision on, because we couldn't go outside of the RCMP. We had to make sure that we exhausted all of our avenues within before we could go outside. So because I was part of the legal fund with the RCMP, I went to the legal fund and said, hey, this is the decision now that's come out. It's not in our favor. We're going to go outside to a lawyer and take this on. Now, what do I have to fill out for the legal fund to help us out? And at first they're like, well, how many of you are pay into the legal fund? I'm like, that shouldn't matter. I pay into it and I have to deal with this,
Mm-hmm.
And so finally they agreed that they would pay for it. Thank God, because it took 20 years from the time of the first grievance to the Supreme Court decision for how long that we fought this. And I tell you, there were times where I was like, fuck this, I'm done. Like, I can't do this anymore. I
Totally.
went from, I had superintendents and chief superintendents tell me, oh, sue the RCMP and this will never happen. And do you know this is going to affect the whole federal government and all police forces and stuff? And I'm like, yeah, so like, what's the problem? Like,
Mhm.
shouldn't we make it right? You're
Mhm.
all telling me, yes, it doesn't make sense. So let's make it right.
Yep.
Like,
Mhm.
and so, yeah, we went to a lawyer, Paul Champ in Ottawa, and he took us on and away we went. And we started with the Federal Court of Appeal. We lost both of those. So we thought, no, we're done. But the Supreme Court takes on anywhere 3 to 5 cases outside where they look at federal court decisions saying, that doesn't seem right. And one of the female Supreme Court judges actually took us on and said, no, we want to see this. We want to see this case.
Yes.
And when our lawyer phoned and said, the Supreme Court's taken on our case, I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, we're going to the Supreme Court. I'm like, okay, let's go. And so that's how all that happened from, being in Ottawa.
That sounds like, and so like, why were they saying no? Like, to me, it's logical. Like, I don't understand why they would. I mean, I get it, political wise, it's
Right.
going to affect so much. There's so much money. There's blah blah blah. But like, from like an overhead perspective, it logically makes sense that you would be able to buy it back. So like, I don't understand why they were fighting you so
Well,
badly on this.
And that's what I said. Like, nothing comes out of your pocket because the member pays both sides. So if you're on a
Mhm.
leave without pay, you pay your portion of the pension plus what the government put into your pension. So
Yeah.
I mean, like I said, after so many years of leave without pay, I knew I had to pay back over $16,000 for the 3 years that I was on leave without pay.
Yeah.
So and you can pay that over like the double the amount of time, and it just came off my paycheck. So I really didn't
Mhm.
notice it.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
after 20 years, I had the pension center call me and say, yeah, actually, being that it's been put back to the rate of the time that you were on job sharing in 2000 to 2003, we actually owe you money. I'm like, okay, bring it on.
You're like,
So
fantastic. Thank you.
yeah, because they had to pay us back from all those years. And if they had done it at the beginning, I think to be honest, when we did it from 2000 to 2003, when we started all this, I think there was only 16 of us that job shared. And in the end, like I said, it was all civilian members, regular members that were able to. And then I got calls from the OPP and EPS, and a bunch of members found me on Facebook and sent me messages and how do we do with this? And, who do we send it to? And all the police forces got on board with it. So I don't know if corrections has got on board with it or anything like that, but if there's any members out there that have job shared or worked part-time, then they should really look into it to buy their pension back.
Totally. Like it like you said, like there's just money there that you are owed. Like you should get on it. So yeah, if any of our listeners, any of our federal correctional officers, anybody out there, like I mean, the precedent has been set because it doesn't matter if you're a federal employer. The precedent has been set at the Supreme Court. So you should totally, like, again, I know, again, all women that job shared at the jail, provincial corrections because of childcare. And so, yeah, like if you're listening and you know somebody, guys, share this episode, get it out there. The more people that know, the more people that can go and get what they're due and get what's owed to them. So love
absolutely.
that. And thank you for doing it because that's a long slog, 20 years. That's a long haul of like, constant disappointments, constant like, oh, well, get this together now, go find these papers, get blah, 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 right? Like it's a lot of freaking work to take on, right? And
Pulling policy, pulling everything, pulling all of our, like, I kept everything on my job sharing, like my first, because you had to sign a contract, right? Like you were going to do this many hours. And if you were called in, you got, had to do this, or the RCMP needed you for an emergency that you would be available. And, all of these stipulations on the contract. So we had to prove all of these contracts, how it worked. We had to, all the policy from, I had to put all the policy from at the time, to now. There was a lot of stuff to go through and to find out, what was required for that. And like I said, 20 years later,
Well, and it's easy to lose, not focus, but lose that drive, lose that like momentum, lose that, at some point you go, is this fucking worth it? Like, is it actually fucking worth it? But then
that
to get to the end and realize like, yeah, it is freaking worth it. It is important because not only did you help yourself, but you helped all of these other people that like the ripple effect is huge on something like that. So
yeah, absolutely.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so you went to Ottawa though, because the job they offered you, I'm sorry, and you said it and now I'm totally blanking, but it was like Parliament.
Prime Minister's detail.
Prime Minister's. Okay, so tell me about this because this is very interesting. And I think you might have actually, I mean, maybe not, but I had a Canadian military member that was on the podcast, Lola Legler, and she was on a detail like this with the prime ministers and with like the governor general and stuff like this. And I'm like, I'm wondering if you guys ever crossed paths. I feel like you probably might have, but tell me about all of this.
So well, I mean, I got the transfer to PMPD, and while I was on the 3-week PMPD course, I tore my Achilles tendon, but it went undiagnosed for 2 weeks while I was there. So when I got back to Alberta, I had surgery and all that kind of stuff. And so when I went back, I was still in my boot, and it was up to the point where I went to the RCMP doctor and said, look, you need to, send me back to work. I can't be at home. Like, we just moved here. My kids are making new friends. My husband's back to work. Like, the dog's talking to me and I know what he's saying. Like, I'm going crazy. So he's like, you know how many people ask me to put them back to work? I said, I really don't care. And he goes, how are you going to get to work? It's your right foot. You can't drive. I said, let me worry about that. So I went back to work like 2 to 3 days, half days. And I was in the office looking after like different scheduling and stuff. But I also had the red phone, which was like the direct phone to the Prime Minister's residence. So if Mrs. Martin, because we had Mr. Martin at the time, Prime Minister Martin, if she wanted to go early for a haircut or something like that, then she would call and say, hey, I need to go early. Can you have the members pick me up and stuff? So I would look after that kind of that, bat phone or whatever.
Phone, I love it. Yeah.
And then, looking after schedules and different things like that. And then from there, I went to help one of the guys with coordinating the VIP course and coordinated that. And then went over to policy section for domestic violence and victim services and worked there for a couple of years. Then I went up to the VIP Canadian executive desk. So I looked after all of the files for Supreme Court Justice, the Governor General, all the federal courts, tax judges, federal ministers, former PMs. So we look after all their schedules. So wherever they were going, we would send for threat assessments. And if there was a threat or some kind of a threat, then we had to decide what kind of level of security they got and stuff. And that was pretty demanding because you had to have, at that time we had pagers.
Yeah. Love it.
Before we got the Blackberries. But and you get paged and you'd have to go back in and find out what was going on and stuff. And, like former Prime Minister Jean Chrétien, he liked to go to a lot of different places. And I mean, he was great with us and his staff and everything. And so, that was a fun job. And then got promoted to Sergeant to Employment Equity, where I looked after that for a few years. And 2010 went over to federal policing, where we worked with Prime Minister Harper, brought in this Beyond the Border program. So we dealt with the U.S. Coast Guard, and we started the shipwriter program, which is on the water, like I was telling you, where bad guys knew that there was a line in the water. So if they were in the U.S., they knew they could cross into Canada and the U.S. couldn't follow them, and vice versa when they were, shipping their drugs on the water and stuff like that. So, we started the shipwriter program, and we started training with the U.S. Coast Guard and went to their facility in South Carolina and did all our classroom work, and everybody got certified on the U.S. side and the Americans got certified on the Canadian side. So we could jump on each other's vessels and we could stop pretty much everybody because you had a member from each on the thing. So that was a lot of fun. And I did that until I retired. So
it's so cool because again, I say this all the time on the podcast, when you think of policing agencies, right? You think of RCMP, you think of rural cops, like in the small communities out there, gravel roads, prairies, right? Like you don't think about RCMP on a boat in the ocean. Like you just, it's not even, it doesn't even like register that would be a job. And that is what is so cool about all of these policing agencies is like, if you have any inkling for a like different side of things, there's opportunities. Like a girl from Ontario and who worked in the prairies is now out in the ocean on these boats, like figuring out what is going right. Like, and again, like border stuff. And I mean, now super relevant, right? If we're talking about border patrol and border security and things like that, like, and so knowing again, the work you were doing back there has guided what is now going to be happening and work that is now being done. And so like having not known anything really about that side of things, like how did you kind of dive into that and be like, okay, I need to know this and I need to figure this out and I need to create this program and get this done?
Well, I was working with a guy that was originally starting it. And when they brought me over to federal policing, they like, what's your background? Well, I have HR background and this and that. And they're like, okay, well, we have to procure, like he looked after the procurement of all the vessels and all the equipment and all that. And I did, put out the posting for the members to apply for the positions. And we went through all their files and did the HR stuff on it. And the staffing and all the policies and, the training and how long the training would be and, use of force, because the American use of force is different than the Canadian use of force.
Yeah.
So we had to go through all of that before we could even do like the first courses, to go through. So yeah, it was a lot. And then the guy that I worked with, he got promoted. So it ended up being just me in charge of, all of these guys and figuring out instructors and all that kind of thing. So it was a lot, but it was fun. We had some really, really good instructors and everybody that helped out and stuff. So it was really a good team that we had. And the Coast Guards were great as well. So I did visit some of the, like BC, they worked a lot, they work a lot with the Washington side of it. And I guess from what I know, everything is still a go with that one. We had a boat in Cornwall as well. Not Cornwall. They wanted one in Cornwall, but we didn't. We had one in Kingston and we had one in Windsor. So the Windsor-Detroit border and stuff. And they still have them as far as I know, but the one that was the iffy one was the Cornwall one, because you had the natives on the other side that they had their own kind of police, and we did train a couple of them so that they would be involved with on the New York side, so they would understand that stuff. But we did run into some very political side of it too, right? But yeah, and we had fun. Like I can say that, I had a great career. Like I did a lot of different things. Like you said, like if you knew what was available and what was out there, and, as a junior member, even knowing that there's postings in countries, right? I had no idea that there was liaison officers in all these countries. Like at one point I was like, oh, if I had known that, I would have maybe, taken my career in a different direction. But yeah, so yeah, we had fun.
It's so funny because my a girl that I played rugby with in like high school and pandas and stuff like that, her husband was with the RCMP and she was a nurse, and their original posting was like High Prairie or something, like random, like way up butt fuck nowhere. And then he got a posting in India as like the RCMP guy in India. And so then the next thing I know, I see this, like, she's like, see you later, guys, we're moving. And I was like, what the fuck? You're going to India? And she's like, yeah, Jazz got this posting. And so off they went. And they lived in India for 2 years. And he was the liaison person. I was like, again, no freaking clue that was even like an option for people. It's super cool. And like, even, I mean, like the Prime Minister's detail, right? Like, again, you don't really think about, like, obviously that there's people that are doing those jobs, but it's like, a little small town girl from Milton, Ontario can do it. Like, right? Like 5-year-old you never would have thought that would have been one of the things you were doing. So it's so cool. I just, there's just so many different opportunities and different things. And so when you were on the like Prime Minister's detail, was it like a rotational, like, cause I mean, obviously you're just like on the clock all the time, bat phone and all that stuff. But
Yeah.
like, did they have like the like shifts that would rotate, or was it just like this was the detail? You're basically just assigned, you're on, and it's you, and that's what you're doing.
Yeah, there were shifts, there were teams and stuff, and then at one point they had a travel team. So only those guys would travel with the PM, and then they
Okay.
stopped that and they let everybody kind of have a chance of to travel and stuff. But yeah, they had, your inspectors or your travel officers, so they would go ahead and do the pre trip, and you would have people that were there doing the ITIN and making sure that different things and doing the security and, talking to the police of jurisdiction at that point and, getting vehicles ready. And, it was a lot of work and a lot of hours. And if you had a prime minister that traveled a lot, you were gone a lot. So unfortunately, with that detail, there were a lot of divorces.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, again, you're not really thinking that you're going to be away for all of that time, and right. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, you are, that's part of what you're doing. Like, yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
And so when you were ready to retire, was it just like you hit the age and you were like, yep, I'm going to pull the pin? Or was it just like, you know what, like I'm ready for something new. I'm ready to take this, scale it back. Like, what was it about, whatever it was, 2015, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
That you just kind of said, I'm going to pull the pin.
Well, I was in South Carolina on a shipwriter course with a bunch of members, and it almost felt like at that point I was babysitting, if I can say that, right? Like,
Yep.
I'm a sergeant there. I'm getting things. I'm not controlling things, but I'm, making sure everything's flowing right. Everything's doing this. And then you have to tell, a corporal or whatever to say, you know what, like we tell the students that they can't come to the class, hungover, like it should be the same for instructors, and for me to have to go to some of these males members and say, you know what, like knock it off, and you're married, stop flirting, stop whatever. If I have to send you home, I'll send you home. And it just got to the point where I was like, this is not fun anymore, and this is not what I signed up for. So I just, I have 26 years, and my husband said to me, when Joanne, like you're good. So that's when I decided I kind of had enough, and I put my papers in, and they came to me and said, can you stay like another 6 months before you go? And I'm like, no, like I'll give you 2 months. I was supposed to go in December, and I said, no, I was going to go on my anniversary date on December the 5th. And I said, no, I'll give you till February then to help, with the new person coming in and get them settled and everything. And so I gave him till February, but that was it. And then I didn't do anything for 2 years, and my neighbor on the back worked for CBSA and said, hey, do you want to come and do a contract with CBSA and do some ATIP and some, what else did we did? We did travel histories for people that would want their travel histories in and out of Canada and stuff, that were applying for a permanent residency and all that kind of stuff. So I said to him, I don't do summer from May to September, and I only do 3 days a week. And he's like, yeah, sure, no problem. So I worked for CBSA after that and did that and till my mom passed away. And then I went and I helped with her before she passed away. But yeah, that was.
Wow. That's great. And so your husband, like, not that it's about him, but he's been a member the whole entire time too. So whenever you're like, cause this is another thing that always kind of like with RCMP is like, if you're getting a transfer, he's got to also get a transfer, or he's got to figure out what he's going to do. Right. Or you've got to figure out if he's getting a transfer, you've got to figure it out.
Right.
And so each time you guys moved or went somewhere, was it easy for the other person to be able to come and get another job and kind of like transfer over, or was there like a little bit
so you had to put it in your 13, what was it, 1272, you had to put in there that upon a job as well for spouse kind of thing. So they knew that they were getting 2 for 1. They were paying for 1 move and getting 2 members. So that's the way it went. And then with my husband, he did 35 years. He just retired last January. And when he got the opportunity to come back to Alberta, because both of our kids married and came back to Alberta, we jumped on that and we came back here to Edmonton. So,
Are your kids in law enforcement?
my daughter is Calgary Police. Yeah, she's a Calgary police officer, and our son is he's not in law enforcement. No.
It's funny though, because like that's like my people ask me all the time, like, are your kids gonna go, like, are they gonna go into law enforcement? Are they gonna be a first responder? And it's like, I don't know. Like, I think like maybe, like, I think my youngest might, she's kind of the one that I would say probably is leaning more towards it or would like fall into that kind of like career. My other two, I'm like, oh, I don't know. But then you never know, right? Because they grow up and they just become their own little person and they get their own ideas and their own things that they want to do and things that they want to be part of. And yeah, so that's very interesting. I'll have to have your daughter on the pod. I'll have to get her on the pod.
Yeah. But you know, when you look back at it and the time that, you know, I was here in Alberta doing police work and stuff like that, we didn't have, like you said, cell phones. So you don't have somebody right there with a cell phone in your face and, you know, doing that kind of stuff. So one thing I did say to my daughter when she got on with Calgary Police, and they were one of the first to wear the body cameras and stuff. And I said, you make sure you put that body camera on every time you go to a call, because it's your word against theirs. And unfortunately, this day and age, I said, you have to have your ducks in a row. So, you know, she's on mat leave right now, but yeah, but she's in her 7th year and she loves it. So she first 4 years, I think, we're downtown, right? Calgary. So she's done her share of stuff for sure.
Crazy. And so now you're living the retired life and you're doing like, you doing the fitness, you're hanging out, you're doing the things you want to do, and life is good. Is there any drive whatsoever to kind of make your way back into it? Or are you just kind of like, no, I'm good. I've done my time and I'm good.
No, I know I've done my time. Like I said, when we came back here in 2019, like husband was still working, and you know, you kind of still were kind of involved a bit because you heard through, you know, him what was going on, kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, no, I'm glad I'm out and not dealing with any of this crap anymore and stuff. And no, we're traveling now. We just got back. We did almost 4 weeks to Africa, and yeah, we just got back from a month from Mexico. So yeah, life is good.
See, I need to get to this version of my life. I keep saying this every time I talk to it's all my actually it's not, because my yoga people, I was taught yoga today, and one of my ladies literally 3 weeks ago went on the Zumba cruise. And so she was cruising for the Zumba cruise, came back for a week, and then fucked off to Cancun, Mexico for 2 weeks. And I was just like, you know what? I need to get to this stage of my life. I would like to be this person that is doing this traveling, because right now I am the person that is living in Edmonton and just staying here with this stupid fucking snow and all this crap. And I don't want to be here anymore. I want to go on vacation. I want to go around. I don't want to be doing the working things anymore. I'm done.
Yeah.
How am I going to get to the retirement part faster?
I know. Our kids are like, so what's your next trip? And we're like, I don't know. We'll let you know once we find out.
Yes, right? Like, I'm telling you, I'm sad though, because my husband is not like, he'll travel, like he'll, like, you know, if I plan a trip, he'll travel and he'll do it. But he's not like, he would be very happy to just be at home, like as a retiree, like be at home in his garage and just be tinkering. Like he would be happy. Whereas I'm like, the second we were retired, we are going everywhere, and he is not going to be down with that. So I can see myself, like, he'll probably hit like 1 or 2 trips, and then it'll me just be solo, like me and my girlfriends, like, let's go here, let's go there, let's go here, let's go there. Yeah, so my retirement needs to be much higher than his Mr. Tinkering in the garage, right?
Yeah.
Well, okay, so I want to wrap up because I've taken time away from your amazing retirement, but there's just so many things that you did and were part of, and it's just, it's so incredible when you talk to people. And then it's so hard to sum up 26 years in an hour too, right? Like, it's like when you think of all the experiences and all the things you've done and all the places you've worked, it's really hard to like be succinct about it. But I always wrap up the show. I bring in some quick rapid fire questions, some funsies. So I'm going to take you back to when you were in uniform. I'll even take you back to like when you were in Fort Saskatchewan or Highway Patrol. Yeah. What was your favorite food or snack when you were on shift?
M&Ms.
The peanut
Yep,
M&Ms.
peanut
Yeah.
M&Ms.
Yes. Yes. Those are my road trip go-to. Anytime I go on a road trip, regular chips and peanut M&Ms. Yes. Happy chappy. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent choice. Okay. Number 2, of all the locations that you got to work at and live in and be part of, and you can even like, again, I'll even give you like a travel, location you got to go if you were with Prime Minister, but what was your favorite or most memorable kind of location that you got to go to for work?
Probably Thailand.
Oh, wow. And
Yeah.
so it was a Prime Minister's detail to Thailand?
No, it was part of the shipwriter program. They sent us to Thailand. I had to do a presentation to them on how things could work out and how it worked between the US and Canada because they were looking at bringing in a similar program. So, yeah, they sent me to Thailand for a presentation for that. So I have to say that's probably the best trip to.
So cool. Oh my
Yeah.
God. Yes. Like, and again, never would have thought that that would have been part of your journey. Hey, like,
Yeah.
oh, so cool. Yes. And yeah, like, I mean, really, if you think about anybody that has border waters would need this type of a program, or at least similar information sharing on like what was best practice for you, best practice for them. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
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 Very, very cool. Okay. And then the last one I have for you is, what would be a piece of advice that you would like to give to somebody that's looking to get into the career? It could be RCMP, it could be first responder, just, in general, what would be something you would say?
Probably if it's something you've always wanted to do, go for it. And a piece of advice that I got from someone when I first joined was, if you let what people say get to you, this is not for you. But if you can let crap go in through one ear and out the other and stay true to yourself and what you know is right, then do it. And that's what he told me, and it worked for me throughout my career for sure.
That is such a great piece of advice, because it's totally true. Like, if you are going to be butthurt and have hurt feelings over things, like, oh my God, okay, not the job for you. Like, you
Not the
got it.
career for you. No.
Not at all. Like, you
No.
gotta, because like, it's not even the people that you deal with that are going to be shitting on you. I mean, that is a given. It's
Yeah.
all the other crap that happens that you're like, oh, I did not anticipate it being on the same side as me being shit on me. Great, perfect, wonderful, right? So
Right.
yeah, absolutely. But I do like that on like, stay true to who you are, know who you are, know what you bring to the table, what, like, people are going to say shit no matter what. They're going to be jealous, they're going to be upset, like you said, that you got that promotion, or you got that job, or you got that posting, or you got that project. Like, people are going to be butthurt and they're going to say shit. And if you let it get to you, and if you let it start to become the internal voice that's telling you how good you are at things, like, yeah, that's no, you can't. You've got to be able to stand true to who you are and know that you can do it. And totally, again, like, if you
The
really
job
want to
sharing
do
thing.
it,
Even with the
yes.
job sharing thing, when you know something is wrong and you want to make it right, you know it's the right thing to do. And even when you
Mhm.
had people tell you, "Oh, sue us and do this," and you'll never make it, and you'll never win. So drop it or whatever. But I knew from the beginning,
Mhm.
like, this is not right. Like, this is an oversight. Like, let's make it right, kind of thing. And
Yeah.
everybody kept, you would tell somebody about it and they're like, yeah, that makes no sense. And I'm like, yeah, exactly. Right. But if I didn't have that from the beginning of true to yourself, go for it. If you know what's right is right,
Mhm.
same thing. If you see something that is not kosher with, whether it's another member or whatever, and somebody comes to you, you need to say, hey, yeah, you know what?
Mhm.
This is what happened and this is
Yeah.
why, and stuff like that. Right. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I love that. It's true. It's staying true to yourself. And it's hard. It is hard sometimes. There's definitely things that will change you. There's things that will make you second guess, like, if it's worth it. Should I actually battle for this? Should I just give it up? Should I just,
Should I get in
but
my police car and cry my eyes out because nobody can see me?
yes,
You
yeah,
know?
yeah. And you're in the backcountry Hawaii, or highways of Redwater,
Yeah,
and you can.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Elk Island National Park.
Yeah.
When I was in Fort Saskatchewan. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so
Yeah.
funny.
Yeah.
Well, Joanne, thank you. Thank you for taking the time. Thank you for like being just like totally willing to jump on your Aquafit Instructors podcast and talk about your
No, it was
career.
fun. Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, like I
Thanks.
said, I love learning about people. I love learning about the things that they do. And then, yeah, to know all this more about you and on like the fire that you've got and the lengths that you're willing to go to for what you believe is true, what you believe is right. That's something that's outstanding. So good for you. And thank you for doing it because again, there's people out there that are going to benefit from it for years to come. So yeah,
Yeah.
thanks for going to battle. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Any last words for our listeners?
No, it's been fun. Thanks for the invite. Yeah, it was a blast. And like I said, if anybody needs any info on the pension job sharing or whatever, they can reach out to me, or if they want to contact you, if they need anything, they can, yeah.
Incredible. Yeah. Guys, listeners, I'll be throwing all of this stuff in the show notes. I'm going to link the decision. I'm going to link the lawsuit. I'll link up some contact information. So again, if you're listening and you're like, holy shit, this resonates and I need to look into this, look into it. Share it with a friend. If you know a friend that job shares and you're like, hey, you need to look into this, share it with a friend. The more people that listen, the more people that know about this, the more people that are going to benefit. And Joanne will know that she didn't fight for 20 years for nobody.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. Okay. Well, thank you so much. Have an awesome rest of your day.
All right. Thanks. You too.